You may have heard of the classic novel To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is a required reading in some schools. As a matter of fact, I had to read this novel in 11th grade, but recently it has been banned in some schools because of the sensitive topics that are explored, as well as some of the language included in the writing. And we're going to look at an article today that deals exactly with that. This is from the New York Post, and the title is Teacher Claims He Was Fired for Reading N-Word Section of To Kill a Mockingbird in Teachable Moment. This was published on June 12th, 2025, and let's go ahead and read what it says. A teacher in Washington state said he was recently fired for reading his class a passage from To Kill a Mockingbird without censoring the N-word. Matthew Mastronardi, a Spanish teacher at West Valley High School in Spokane, was filmed reading out loud a section of the 1960 Harper Lee novel about racism and injustice in the Jim Crow era Deep South. The Spanish teacher said in a lengthy X post Wednesday that he only spoke the slur, which is used repeatedly in the classic work, as a teachable moment about context and literary honesty in reading when he heard students saying they felt they must skip over the N-word. And here is a picture of the teacher, Mr. Mastronardi. Additionally, the article says, I was astonished and expressed disagreement saying that's silly. It undermines the book's historical context and disrespects the author's intent to use accurate language, Mastronardi said. A girl asked me in front of the class, would you read the word? I replied, yes, I would read every word. Unaware that he was being recorded, Mastronardi, who admitted being nervous but committed, said he then chose to read out the passage in front of the 30 students as a teachable moment. Within days, the teacher said he was slapped with a verbal warning from the principal before later being told he could either resign or face not having his contract renewed. After refusing to quit, Mastronardi was served a non-renewal notice. So this is very interesting. I'm curious as to whether or not To Kill a Mockingbird is a required reading at this school, because I think that this I would say that it's a little unfair if you have a required reading that's part of the curriculum and teachers are supposed to teach, but they can't read specific words from that novel. I think that's a little weird. But what the story goes on to say that Mastronardi, he is trying to get this appealed. He's trying to get this overturned by going to the school board. We'll see what happens there, because it's kind of, I would feel a little odd if my principal fired me and, I tried to take it to the school board and they overturned it. I'm like, I wouldn't want to go back and work at that school. That would be weird. So maybe he's trying to get placement at a different school. But really, on to the details of the story. This is a difficult one, and I have mixed feelings about this. The reason is because, personally, I have witnessed the double standard of using this word in the context of schools. For the past few years, I've worked at an urban high poverty school where this word is thrown around quite frequently, and not just by students, but also staff members as well. Yes. And disciplinarians. I have seen this, referring directly to students and using that word with them, basically using the same language as students. So it is a little weird, I would say, if in that context, someone read that word and got into trouble for doing it and lost their job. Because you see it thrown around so frequently, and it can be used in some cases as a term of endearment. I mean, the word was used so frequently. I was called that at one point by a student. A student referred to me disrespectfully, but you use that terminology that they use with each other. And they got in trouble for it because I wrote a referral. You refer to me as Mr. Harris, not that. But it happens. And I actually have a similar story to this because this actually happened. Not that I read a word out loud, but I encountered this situation because a couple of years ago I was reading the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass to some students, and Frederick Douglass in his autobiography does use this language. And as I was reading, I came to the word and paused because I didn't know what to do. I said, I don't want to read this, but I want students to know what's going on here and what's being said. So I told students, I said, this is the N word. I didn't expect it, but I'm gonna use person or people or guy as a placeholder instead of actually saying this word. But you know what it is, and you can use your imagination if you want to fill that in. And students encouraged me. They said, "No, say it. I want to hear you say it." Students do that sort of thing. And so I can imagine the situation that this teacher might have been in with some students potentially encouraging him to say it, as it says in the article, because it says here that, let's see, let's see. Yeah, it says here that some students asked him to say it, but and some students asked him to skip over it, I believe. But yeah, it's just really weird. And the other thing about this is the article goes on to say that there were no complaints. It says here that the teacher says there are no parent complaints, no documented disciplinary actions, and I've passed every teaching evaluation. And the school claimed that there were some other reasons that they may have decided to not renew his contract, but did not specify. So it's a little weird because from all the evidence points to this guy being a great teacher and doing well at the school, but because of this one incident, he lost his job. And I would hate to be in that type of situation. And I'm also curious as to what his relationship with his supervisor and those in charge are, because this seems like maybe he's saying that it's a teachable moment between himself and his students, but why can't this also be a teachable moment for him as well? If administration is not okay with him using this language or reading this book, let's talk about the mistake that was made here. Let's talk about the reason why it is inappropriate, why you can't do this at that school, and move on from there. Because this does seem very harsh. And like I said, I have mixed feelings about this, about whether or not you can read this type of content. Now, I'm not saying that you should. And why is this book in this school anyways if you can't use this language? Those are a lot of questions here. But I feel for this guy because this is a difficult one. This is a difficult one because it is in the novel. And I would hope that, if this is part of your curriculum and you're supposed to teach this to kids, like, you either need to be given instructions like not to say this or just not have it in the curriculum at all. I would think. But those are just my thoughts. I'm curious as to what you think about this. Do you think this firing of Mr. Matthew Mastronardi, was this justified? Was this legitimate? Or do you think that the school did him an injustice? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, have you encountered any situations like this at your school? Have you been faced with this challenge? Having to decide whether or not you can speak the language that is in a textbook or a novel? Let me know down in the comment section. Tell us how you handled it. Also, remember, if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, share. That's all I have for you today. See you in the next one.